What's good, friends?
Nothing.
Welcome into Fantasy Focus Football.
Sorry.
Everything is good.
Everything is good. What were you doing yesterday?
I was watching fantasy football. I didn't mean to hijack you, but yeah.
No.
I mean,
Were you watching
You're answering the
fantasy
question.
football,
I
or
watched
were you
Jamar Chase
watching
play football
actual
yesterday,
football?
so yeah, it wasn't good.
Okay.
He said he was watching fantasy football. I think what he meant is he was watching actual football
While
Yes.
playing fantasy.
while
And-
enjoying the fantasy benefits.
Well, sometimes enjoying fantasy, sometimes maybe not enjoying. We got a little bit of everything here in week one.
Yeah, that was for comedic effect. To
That
be
was-
clear, I didn't mean to actually, cut you off 3 seconds into the show.
No, I'm very excited. Guys, we were talking about this before the show started. We cannot be more pumped to be here to talk about everything that happened
You're
over
choked
this
up.
weekend.
You're so emotional over this.
Well, you know what he's wearing? It's really sweet. You're the only one. Well, you're agnostic, but I'm not wearing my Niners gear.
This is a
and I
comfort
could
sweater,
be.
Stephania. It's a comfort sweater is what it is.
Is that what it is?
It was chilly this morning. I needed to
hug?
throw
It is-
something
you need
on.
It is
be
almost fall
held.
here.
Yeah, listen, after week one, as a Detroit Lions fan, I might need to be held. Same for anyone that rostered many of the Detroit Lions. We're going to dive into a bunch of performances here in week one. We're going to do our best to, I don't know, if there's one week in which you can overreact in the NFL season, week one is going to be it. I mean,
yeah.
we have as little information as we possibly could have, so let's have some fun with it. Why not?
Of course, this is our opportunity to say things that may, in a few weeks, look very pragmatic and our patience pays off.
Yep.
Or maybe we are telling you to hold, and instead the ship will be sunk within the next 3 to 4 weeks. We've got a lot of questions. We've got studs and duds. We've got, just a lot of emotions. I'm
Yeah,
sure
a lot
as
of
well.
Always
players.
a few
And,
injuries.
yep, a Monday Night Football preview. Yeah, it was unfortunately a day with plenty of injuries as well. But I feel like we are ripe for overreactions on a day like today. So should we dive into it?
Yeah, I just want to say this. You don't win or lose your matchups in week one. It's a long season. However, for those that do want to get something for their championship, make sure you're going over to TrophySmack.com. Use the promo code FOCUS10, whether it is a belt or a chain or a trophy or a ring or a toilet seat, like the one that's sitting right behind me, just perfectly framed around my head right now. Don't worry about that.
There were a couple of teams that made me feel like I wanted to literally take that toilet seat and put it over my head.
Oh,
Not
you and me both.
Yeah, it was some teams started out slow, some teams a little more effective than others. But I think that the number one thing that comes to mind for me yesterday is I imagine there are a lot of people out there that had the number one pick in their fantasy drafts and are saying to themselves this morning, did I screw the pooch? Did I make a mistake here by taking Jamar Chase over Bijan Robinson? Bijan yesterday goes...
That was good. Good comedic effect.
Yeah. So Bijan goes for about 6 times as many points, 5 times as many points as Jamar Chase. Bijan has 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Prior to Sunday Night Football, he was the only player in the entire league with 100 yards and a receiving touchdown, 100 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown in the early slate of games, plus Thursday and Friday night. He actually only rushed for 24 yards on 12 carries. But he's such a weapon in the passing game that he doesn't need tons of rushing efficiency to pay off. Meanwhile, Jamar Chase goes for 2 catches and 26 yards on 5 targets. And the Bengals win. That was important. A Bengals win over the Browns. Here is the case to be very, 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 very patient and not regret a thing right now with Jamar Chase. Would you guys agree that 10 catches for 97 yards is a pretty good day for fantasy? That's 19.7 points. That would be good, right?
Yeah.
You would take that. Okay, that's what Jamar had in the first 2 games combined last year. He had 97 receiving yards in weeks 1 and 2 last season. The Bengals, for whatever reason, maybe it's many reasons, are as slow of a starting good team as there is in the NFL. I do believe they are good, by the way. For whatever reason, they have this bugaboo. It's weeks 1 and 2. Yesterday, they barely got out of Dodge, but they did win. Jamar Chase will be much, much busier. And I'll say this too. The Browns still figuring out how good of a team they will be this year. They're good on defense. They're flat good on defense. If there's a way in which it's week 1, you don't know all the things that are coming, that works both ways. Yes, the Browns don't know what to expect entirely from the Bengals offense, but hold the fort here on Jamar Chase. It stinks. You may have lost your week 1 matchup in a nail-biter, and if you have Jamar Chase, that's probably the reason why. It won't surprise me if he gets way on track as early as next week. The only thing that I will say in terms of regret is that it's not regret yet, but it's a reminder of why every time we had a conversation about the first pick this year, it was all things being equal, I take Jamar Chase, but this is not some open and shut case for him. Bijan belongs in the conversation. He reinforced it yesterday. So that to me was the first overreaction or first reaction. It could be an overreaction,
dude.
After Monday.
I couldn't believe
Sunday.
that Dylan Sampson had more receptions than Jamar Chase as a rookie running back in that Cleveland Browns offense. He looked fantastic.
Good.
I don't think that's going to continue for what it's worth, especially with Quinshon Judkins joining the team soon.
Yeah.
So, we'll dive into that in a little bit. Stephania, what about you? What was your first big takeaway or overreaction from week one?
Well, I was overreaction. I have so many. I mean, I was going with what I put down, which was that Breece Hall was like my first. I don't think that's an overreaction, though. I think the Breece Hall,
whatever.
It was my first reaction, like my gut reaction, first thing out of the gate was that Breece Hall on the ground was more than we thought he would be. And I don't know that the fantasy production numbers, they weren't superlative, so you might not notice it. Like Mike Clay in his projections had him 14 carries for 56 yards on the ground. He went 19 for 107. And to me, it was about the efficiency because it was more than 1.5 yards per carry in terms of efficiency for Breece Hall to improve upon what he was projected to do. Now, he was projected for 3 catches. He had 2. I think that kind of leveled itself out. But to me, we were all worried, I think, when you saw Justin Fields moving, there was the concern that Justin Fields would steal enough on the ground that it would make Breece Hall sort of, where does he fit into this ground game? I loved what I saw. I loved the way he looked. I felt like for fantasy draft purposes, like you got him at a good value if this is what we're gonna get from Breece Hall out of things. So my initial reaction, and I don't think it's an overreaction because I think this is here to stay with him. But my first gut response when we got asked, like, what are your topics, was Breece Hall on the ground is way more than we gave him credit for.
Mine was right in line with that, Stephania. My biggest takeaway, or not biggest, but one of my big takeaways was we just didn't give the Jets offense enough love in fantasy football. In fact, we probably hated too much.
Maybe.
With what, and we'll see. It's an overreaction, right?
Yeah,
That's part of this. Is
we'll
the overreaction.
I agree.
So
Breece Hall, I don't think we like. I think Breece Hall is the one that has the chance to be the stickiest out of the 3.
I would agree with that.
Fantasy stars of yesterday.
He out-snapped Braylon Allen basically 2-1.
Yep.
He out-touched him 21-6. The one thing that sucked about this is that it was Justin Fields that got the rushing touchdowns, and then Braylon Allen vultured the goal line carry. So Breece Hall did everything other than that.
Yeah, but the good news is you got Breece Hall at a pretty steady discount.
Yes,
if he is going to play twice as many snaps as Braylon Allen.
Right.
The Jets were giving off that's not fair. The Jets / the coverage / the analysis that we had almost made it feel like Breece Hall was going to be capped at like 50% of the snaps, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This was going to be, maybe it was like 40-40-20. Isaiah Davis hardly factored into the game yesterday, and Braylon Allen really did not factor into the game in the second half. On top of all the numbers that Stephania said, the eye test was very favorable to Breece Hall. He is a mega talent that if he continues to play like this, he'll ball out in free agency next March, or he'll get tagged by the Jets. And
I think that's why the Breece Hall thing was so meaningful to me, because there was so much chatter about Braylon Allen and how much the Jets loved him.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of reaction to that, I think, in terms of how we were projecting Breece Hall for the future and just not knowing what the offense would look like entirely with Justin Fields. So to me, it was like, wow, I'm watching this and I'm seeing something different than what I was expecting to see.
I was really pleased to see that even though we're not sure how it's going to continue on in the future, Gary Wilson was the only pass catcher with more than 4 targets in the entire offense. Like, he's clearly locked in as the number one, even though that, man, I wish he had completed that last catch. That was a huge hit by Jalen Ramsey, but it was, he looked nice.
He did. He's going to need a gigantic target share because Justin Fields, in a game in which there were 66 points scored, had 22 passing attempts.
Yes.
He had 14 completions.
Yep.
So it was a great day for Garrett Wilson. And we still drafted him as a top 20 wide receiver. It's just going to need to be as efficient going forward as it was yesterday, which was 7 catches on 9 targets. Right. So that's catching 78% of your passes. That's very, very high for a touchdown and big yardage. So really encouraged by the start. I hope the Jets remain that efficient passing the ball. But
does Justin Fields need to remain efficient passing the ball, or did he show us, like, the reason why you drafted me is because of my legs, not because of my
I think
arm?
it's because of legs.
Yeah.
And he's going to get hot for a month. It could be the first month of the season. They play Buffalo this upcoming weekend. Turns out you can run the football against Buffalo. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets try to do exactly that.
I think if you did that, if you took Justin Fields on that hope for, like, so he was my second quarterback in Scott Fishbowl. And I think I have some ridiculous number of points because of him scoring the touchdown. So thievery from Breece Hall a little bit, but great value if you took him as a second QB.
Field, what about you? Give me another overreaction or takeaway.
Okay, so I want to throw this one out to chat. And anybody who's listening who wants to vote.
Chad, but I mean,
Chad. No, Chad is our researcher. We actually lock him in a closet during the show. We don't talk to him anymore. No, I'm kidding, of course. Chat, you are in the mix here. Chat, are you more bullish or bearish on the two rookies that were drafted in the first round at running back? Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton. Let's walk through the good and the bad for each of these players. Ends up being Ashton Genty outscoring Omarion Hampton 12 to 8.1. Here's the good on Ashton Genty. He played 86% of the snaps.
Yes.
That is an astronomical figure.
Yep.
He had 19 carries.
Yep.
You like that?
Love that.
He found the end zone.
Love that.
You like that, right? Here is the bad for Ashton Genty. He had 38 rushing yards.
Yeah.
He had 44 rushing yards after contact and 38 rushing yards on average.
Okay, that's not good.
So Ashton Genty was getting zilch from his offensive line in terms of blocking.
We kind of thought that might be happening.
Yeah, but we certainly were hopeful for like a little more than 2 yards per carry. Here's the only, and this is a little bit of grasping for straws, but it's a silver lining. The Raiders were up in this game, right? They were trying to kill the clock. When you're trying to kill the clock, what do? You run the football.
Yep.
What does the defense know you're going to do?
Run the football.
What does the defense do?
Stack
Sell
the
out
box.
to stop the run and stack the box.
Yep.
So if there were ever a time in which like early in the game, Genty was running well, the eye test was good to him. I'm holding stock here, right?
Yeah.
Like 86% of the snaps, that's good. I would have liked to see more involvement in the passing game. 2 catches for 2 yards from Genty. I don't believe there was a screen pass for Genty that was completed yesterday. A little bit more of that action would be good. Omarion Hampton, 15 carries for 48 yards. He did have 2 catches for 13 yards, both late. The good news is Najee Harris hardly played in this game. He was
had a catch,
very small
which
factor.
I thought was a surprise for a guy who hadn't practiced all season because of an eye issue. They threw up the ball and he caught it.
So it was a big edge to Omarion Hampton over Najee Harris. The question mark there is like, Raheem Mostert was a healthy scratch. Like there's no Raider running back who right now you expect to take away. Yeah, well, that's you don't really expect anybody to take away snaps right now from Ashton Genty.
No.
For the Chargers, I think it's logical that Najee Harris's role will grow not a lot, but a little bit. So it's possible that Hampton won't be playing 80% of the snaps.
He looked good though. You know, it's a tough defense. And he was dragging people on a couple, like there was definitely, he got some, I felt like he was, it wasn't the fantasy production that you want, but I felt like he looked good as a runner. There's potential there.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys have plenty of talent. I think I'm holding on Hampton as well. The hope was maybe you get like a top 10 running back performance from Hampton. He scores 2 touchdowns. He has 20 carries. We didn't get that. So I'm largely neutral on these two players after week 1, but neither one of them came out of the gates humming in week 1 for fantasy.
Immediate instant reaction from our YouTube chat. 66%, say they are bullish still on both of those rookie running backs.
Good. So they're in. They're still in. They are, our chat is the best,
smart.
A, but B, smart.
Yeah, they know ball. I think that's where it's at. All right, Stephania, give us another one.
Well, you knew I was coming here. Was the fear of Christian McCaffrey's demise over-exaggerated?
Did you take that directly from my sheet, or did someone put that on your sheet?
No, it's listen, because it was popular, right?
Fears of CMC's demise were strongly exaggerated is what I have written down on mine. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
What a beast.
I know. Because here's the thing. It's understandable. And so I would say, to answer that question in a word, yes, they were. But it's understandable because people have PTSD from last year.
Of course.
And the experience of last year was, hey, he's doing great, but he was not practicing. He was rehabbing. And then healthy. He's going to play. We all thought he was going to play. Sunday, we think he's going to play. Monday night, he's Monday night, he's a scratch. And then we don't see him for 8 games.
Yeah.
So everybody is triggered when all of a sudden he's a DNP in practice and he comes in as questionable and McCaffrey says, I'm fine, I'm going to play. And everyone's like, hey, we've seen this movie before. We don't like how it ended. The difference was, and we talked about this on the Sunday show, is that he was in warm-ups on Friday with a helmet and uniform on doing hops two-legged and single-legged hops and sort of his track workout warm-up that he does, which you typically would not do if you had a calf injury. And once we heard he was good to go, again, the pattern has always been when McCaffrey is active, he is playing. This is not a timeshare. This is not, and I said yesterday, watch for him to signal himself out a couple times. He'll take himself out when he needs a break, and he did that. If you watch the game, he waved a couple times, and in comes Brian Robinson Jr. He did get his feet wet, but McCaffrey's production was what you hoped it would be. He had 22 carries for 69 yards, but where he's most effective is in the passing game. 9 catches for 73 yards, ends up with 23.2 fantasy points. I think what we would have loved is for him to have gotten in the end zone. We fantasy managers, San Francisco 49ers fans, you saw them trying when they got into the red zone to get him that touchdown that he so desperately wanted, but it just wasn't working for them. But if there was any doubt about his role in the offense and his health in being able to sustain it, at least yesterday, that question was answered. Now, watch everything. Make sure he didn't have we don't hear on Tuesday that all of a sudden he's having soreness post-game.
Sure.
But, fingers crossed that we continue like this.
You love to see early on. I mean, the 31 touches that he had compared to Brian Robinson's 10 touches kind of showed us where the 49ers felt like they were at with Christian McCaffrey. Seems like they can trust him, and we said it all Sunday long on Fantasy Football Now. If CMC plays, you're playing him like you would. End of story. And unless I hear anything otherwise, I'm going to think that CMC is back and ready to go here for this season.
Well, on top of playing him is that until Christian McCaffrey, or if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy all season, he'll be top 3 at worst projected running back each week. Even with poor rushing efficiency yesterday, you are talking about a player who, without scoring a touchdown, had over 23 fantasy points.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's absurd. 9 catches for 73 yards would be a good receiving line for your second wide receiver in fantasy. That's what your starting running back got you. And that was, about 40% or 35% of his touches?
Jamar Chase fans would have loved to have 9 catches for 73 yards.
Brian
Plus,
Thomas
with
fans
the wide receiver room continuing to be thin, and also the Juwan Jennings leaves with a shoulder injury yesterday. By the way, left the game in the fourth quarter with the left shoulder injury, getting an MRI today. We'll see what happens with him. But who did Christian McCaffrey go to when they needed desperately to get a first down late in the game? And it was this great play. And Christian McCaffrey runs out to the left and catches the ball. He is one of his most reliable pass catchers of anyone on the team. So that value will continue to stand for fantasy.
Speaking of reliable pass catchers, my question to you guys is, should we be in full-blown panic mode if you have a Dolphins wide receiver on your fantasy squad?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it feels to me, too. I'm not even sure it's an overreaction.
Is not even. I don't know if you didn't watch the game, you should go back and get the replay and just, I challenge you. This will be the demarcation of how much you love the game of football.
Oh, because watching
you watched that entire game.
Man,
but everything you see from the camera angles, cutting to the receiver on the sideline who is displaying plenty of emotion,
very cool.
to quarterback looking at times just like lost in terms of what to do. I think those things that you're seeing matter as much as whatever you see in X's and O's, because this team is not functional right now, and it's really sad.
In case you didn't watch the game and don't want to go back and do it, just really quickly, Tyreek Hill had 8 fantasy points on 6 targets. Only 6 targets. Jalen Waddle had 7 fantasy points on 5 targets.
He also left the game after taking a gigantic,
huge,
looked like a shoulder injury.
And
from
then
your
Tua
resident expert, and he
scored 5.5 fantasy points, and this in a game in which they were getting dominated by the Colts and needed as much offense as they could get.
By the way, Devon Achane got saved by the most garbage time touchdown of all time.
God.
A receiving catch. I'm nervous all the way around on this offense. I'll say this too. This is maybe the analogy that I think of when it comes to the Dolphins offense is sometimes a baseball team calls up a pitching prospect and no one's seen his stuff. And so he goes through the order the first time and the entire lineup goes 0 for 1 and he's got 5 strikeouts and you're like, this guy might be the next whatever, Babe Ruth or something. And then as the lineup sees him again, they catch up onto it and they catch up onto it again. It feels like the Dolphins surprise no one offensively at all. That first year, 2 years really, just these wrinkles that you would see each week from Miami were catching defenses off guard, and they had zero response for it. On top of the vibes being I think, as low as any team in the NFL right now in terms of the interpersonal vibes. The Dolphins can downplay them as much as they want. If you had the over on Tyreek Hill throwing a tantrum 2.5 quarters into the season, I'm sorry you lost your bet. Like, I mean, CBS, who was covering the game, must have literally had a cameraman that was just dedicated to number 10 in white because it was only a matter of time. And I'm sure the Dolphins would come out and say it's no big deal, motions, heat of the game. Like, it's bad right now. So, yes, this is when we did our show on players who are the biggest hit or miss players in all of fantasy football. Who was the poster child of the show? It was 3 guys. It was Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty, and Tyreek Hill. And it was kind of like, you know, the guy who's great, Christian McCaffrey, is the swing and the hit. Yep. Ashton Genty is the like swing and like we got contact, but we still have to figure things out. And Tyreek Hill in week 1 was the swing and a miss. Like,
especially because Tua spoke to this. All right. He talked to us about how there were issues with how it ended with Tyreek last year, that he talked to him about how he needed to be more of a leader. I mean, they made it sound like this all was taken care of during camp and we were going to see this new and improved family dynamic and that there was understanding of how everyone needed to be if they wanted the team to have success. And I was like, well, that didn't work.
Didn't work at all. The offensive line couldn't protect enough to give Tyreek Hill opportunities to run down the field. I mean, Mike had a great bold prediction.
I was just going to bring this up.
Like, you know, is Tyreek Hill a Bronco by week 4? Like, is he a Chief by tomorrow?
He couldn't change teams fast enough, in my opinion.
It feels that way right now. And I get it. We're ripe for overreaction after just week 1. But for a team that, like, when it confirms your priors,
who would take him, though? This is kind of like
I mean, they have nobody left.
No,
so.
well, it's like the Deontay Johnson thing, though, right? You find a new place, and then everybody's like, "We got this. It's gonna work because they'll get here, they'll be happy, and then it doesn't work."
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I think a trade is probably unlikely. It's less likely than more likely. That being said, it looked like for a disaster start, that was a disaster.
We're overreacting. Let's just let's just say where he's going.
Overreaction or not? Yeah, Kansas City. Overreaction or not? There is a player in Florida who is a league winner, Travis Etienne, for the running back for the Jaguars.
How about Travis Etienne yesterday?
He was like, I see your Breece Hall, and I raise you 143 rushing yards on 16 carries, 3 catches for 13 yards. You know, there were like a few suggestions from Liam Cohen that like Travis Etienne was going to end up being their guy. The problem was there's always the gamesmanship possibility from coaches. Like they could be saying something to throw you off the scent. But instead, yesterday in a weird game with a rain delay and a lightning delay and all kinds of just crazy. Actually, this was an incredible line in the green room from Chris Berman. There's a lengthy delay between the Jaguars and the Panthers. And Boom is like, Travis Hunter is going to become the first player to start a game on offense, to start a game on defense, to start a game in the 1 p.m. window, and to start a game in the 4 p.m. window. So good. So it was a quirky game. But ETN went off, 16 carries for 143 yards. We barely saw Bashal Tutin. We actually saw LaQuint Allen a little bit yesterday.
Seventh rounder, right?
Seventh rounder, who's a great pass catcher out of Syracuse, out of the backfield. We saw him make a mark. But for now, and again, these things can change. For now, it feels like Travis Etienne was the best short-term late round value.
Yeah, it was interesting because in listening to the broadcast, they talked about how Liam Cohen saw Bashal Tutin during the draft process and thought to himself, "This is my Bucky Irving."
Yeah,
and it's like that.
They get there in time,
and it may. But after week 1, it looked like Travis Etienne was very clearly like, "This is still my job, guys. I don't want anyone to be confused about it."
I also think I can't wait. I'm sorry,
no, Phil,
but I can't wait for Mr. Coach Speak Index to start acquiring enough info on Liam Cohen to have like an established database that's more than a small sample size, because to me he is rapidly elevating if you pay attention to what he says, you're going to get good information from him. Sure. He talked about Travis Hunter. You've referenced it many times in the preseason about how he knew what he had and what they were planning to do with him. And then he gave us the playbook for the plan for him for the first week of the season. He talked about Travis Etienne, and I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other, because we kept saying there's going to be this group of running backs, and we don't know how it's going to play out. And they really stayed true to Travis Etienne. And for what it's worth, he proved to them why they should stick with him.
Yeah, the difference between like other situations where it feels like a player is pronounced as the starting back, but there's somebody waiting in the wings, maybe to a degree, Bucky and Rashad White last year. I still believe, especially after yesterday, Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, is that like ETN as an established baseline of being a good player, right? It's a first-round pick, right? Like
It was an RB4 2 years ago.
Rashad White 2 years ago, like just thrived off of volume. It was a very inefficient year. Ramondre Stevenson, I just think is just a bottom, 6 or 7 running back who starts in the NFL. Like it's a matter of time before Henderson takes over that job, in my opinion. In Jacksonville, it's like ETN, like he's a solid back.
Yeah.
Like him being good yesterday is not an error based off of the skill set he has. That was my thought on Jacksonville.
I also can't believe, and I just want to be done with this. I think I said this before we got into the show, but too many weather delays. We had 3 games that were impacted by weather delays, and I don't play football. So I don't look like I play football. I don't look like I've ever played football.
You look like you play tight end for the Minnesota Vikings.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I can only imagine how difficult it is to leave the game basically halfway through the second quarter. You're sitting in a locker room for 45 minutes to an hour.
For Dak Prescott, did you see the cameras on what he was doing? Because that is smart. That is what you do with your players.
Staying busy.
Staying busy.
You gotta,
keeping
even
the
then,
arm loose,
you
doing
come
the
back, and then you got to go to halftime again afterwards. I don't need a second break, guys. I just took a long break.
That was the one joke. It was like, can we just skip halftime? For
Please, I would love that. By the way, we did get to see rookie on rookie crime. We got to see Tedero McMillan matched up against Travis Hunter on defense, which I was just really excited about.
Mac looked good.
He did.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's next?
We'll see a little bit more once we get into that one. But speaking of rookie wide receivers, Stephania, you're next.
Am I?
I believe so.
Whatever.
We just did field, and now we're going to go to you.
Yeah.
I'll roll with it.
All right.
Okay. Is there a changing of the guard at running back in Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
this one
that
too.
I want to give a shout out to our colleague Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks for us in Seattle, because I had a little private exchange with him asking about Kenneth Walker when we knew he had the foot injury in the preseason, just trying to get some vibes on where he was with that and how he was practicing. And he was like, well, that doesn't appear serious, but yet they really like Zach Charbonnet here. They really like Zach Charbonnet, and this new regime is really excited about, they're using him, and you might see a shift. And then he ended up writing an article. You should go find it on ESPN.com. But he wrote a column basically on why the coaching staff is so enthralled with Charbonnet and what he's been able to show. And if you watched the game last night, I think it started to manifest itself. So, he was projected, Kenneth Walker was, for 15 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Instead, he had 10 carries for 20 yards.
Yeah. That was not great. Charbonnet outsnapped him 29-20. Walker did have the touch edge just by 1. It was 13 touches to 12 touches, but it was Zach Charbonnet that got the goal line touch as well.
Okay, so here's the question I have to each of you, and I think I know the answer, but is the takeaway that, the changing of the guard means Zach Charbonnet should be started, or the changing of the guard means neither should be started?
I think it's a committee, and you're going to kind of be throwing a dart until you figure out which one of these running backs.
But it could be they just want to play both of them enough.
Yep.
Here's what I think. If you have Zach Charbonnet, so Zach Charbonnet was cheaper for you in fantasy draft.
By a lot.
Oh, yeah.
By a lot. I listened to my friend Brady Henderson, and so I stocked up on Zach Charbonnet, so I have the luxury of being able to play. I have him down lower. I've got other running backs. To me, I'm not starting him as RB1 or RB2 if I don't have to, but I think he's a solid flex play. And I think that he is consistently going to be valuable enough to be a flex play in your lineup should you need it. Now, you may have other better options, but I do think that he's a sub if you have a running back out. He's a flex play. I think what's going to happen is by the end of the year, we talked about this with, I can't remember who it was last year, but there were, Jackson Smith and Jigba, same team. We talked about him eventually being the number 1 in Seattle, and clearly he was, and he sort of lived up to that last night.
Yeah, he was
That's
awesome.
a different conversation. Yeah. But I think that's what's going to happen is you're going to see the flip from Kenneth Walker to Zach Charbonnet being the heavier utilization in that backfield.
I need more personally before he's a flex for me. Charbonnet had 0 involvement in the passing game whatsoever yesterday, so I'm gonna it's touchdown dependent to be a flex for me. But if this gravitates more towards the Charbonnet show, then certainly he would enter that conversation.
Seems like he's just going to be on the field more than he was last year. That one feels like a pretty definitive thing that we can take away with.
Opportunity.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
what we call that.
100%. All right. My question that I want to ask you guys is, did we anoint Matthew Golden as the de facto wide receiver one in Green Bay too quickly?
Oh, my God.
Yes.
It was like deja vu all over again yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, it was like, you got to catch him. You got to catch him. You got to catch him.
It was literally to everybody.
Yeah.
Matthew
Everybody
Golden.
caught it.
Everyone. Yeah. And this Green Bay, maybe this is the problem, right? That Green Bay offense was just firing on all cylinders. They looked fantastic. Everybody got involved.
Superb. If you catch my drift.
Why were we so surprised? I have a theory. My theory is because none of the wide receivers have been healthy enough to really see them all working together and to have a say so in like.
Yeah, they've been banged up.
They've all been banged up. Jaden Reed, I was in a walking boot not that long ago, and I didn't think he was going to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I think the ability to have all those wide receivers and have them be effective, at least in terms of the Green Bay offense as a whole, but for fantasy purposes, Golden it is.
Matthew Golden was outscored by Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs, and Dontavian Wicks.
Yeah.
It was literally spreading around the resources from Jordan Love.
Spread it around. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that we'd get like 9 targets in week 1.
Me too.
Golden. And instead we got 2 catches.
2 catches. I'm going to definitely readjust my expectations heading into week 2 on this one, unfortunately.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah. Field?
Did the Browns have a starting running back who's not named Jerome Ford?
Hey.
Maybe.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder earlier, but holy smokes, Dylan Sampson looked good as a pass catcher.
He did. So Sampson had 12 carries for just 29 yards. That wasn't good. But the important part was 8 catches for 64 yards. Now, the Browns passing game, I think, is going to continue to have a decent amount of volume because I'm not sure they're going to be able to run the football effectively. But Sampson just proved he's got that in the bag, right? He's a very, very good pass catcher. I will sound like a broken record, but sometimes when you go look at a player's college production as a receiver from the running back position, you're like, that doesn't seem like much of a factor. Tennessee didn't really need Dylan Sampson to catch the football that much because he led the SEC in rushing touchdowns and they were scoring like 40 points a game last year. So he has it in his bag more than he showed in college. There's something that's, of course, hanging over all of this, which is that Quinshon Judkins signed his contract on Saturday. He obviously
it's hard to get excited.
He was embroiled in a legal situation this summer, and Adam Schefter reported that he could be on the field as soon as this weekend. Could Quinshon Judkins? So Sampson should be added. Go ahead.
Is there going to be another disciplinary situation?
Yeah, I believe
so. Then that and the timing of that makes me wonder, like, how eager am I to really go out and get him?
Quinshon Judkins.
Yes.
I think it's one of those where he's the 34th overall pick. He's a very talented player. He was the 3rd running back taken in this great draft class ahead of Travion Henderson, his teammate at Ohio State for their final year. I think Sampson's role in the passing game yesterday decreases the value for Judkins a little bit because Judkins, who is a very capable pass catcher himself, just less likely to see that work given what we saw yesterday. But I think that the Judkins return for now, the more straightforward part to evaluate, because we don't know whether Judkins will get suspended, but I think there's a real chance he will, is that it would hurt Dylan Sampson's value a little bit if he's on the field next week.
Agreed. Right now, for what it's worth, Quinshon Judkins rostered in 55% of leagues, so he's still out there in a lot of leagues.
The only thing that I wish I had been a little more passionate and ardent about during the preseason with the Jerome Ford discourse was that he took a gigantic pay cut to stay with the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, not from he wasn't making $10 million and he went down to $4 million. He went from $3 million to basically minimum salary. The Browns told us this is a replacement level running back at best.
And we drafted 2 running backs to be the future of our backfield.
So the Jerome Ford stuff, people a little bit in over the skis on that one.
By the way, Dylan Sampson, as it stands right now, running back 8 in terms of fantasy points over Devon Achane.
Of course.
Breece Hall.
And Breece had a good game.
And then Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, don't need that
get mad.
stuff on
Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. Any other questions, or you want to do studs and duds?
No, I
got one more. Go ahead, Stephania.
Mine is, how concerned are you about George Kittle and Brock Bowers? I'm about to tell you.
Couple injuries. By the way, really quickly, just to kind of piggyback before you do that, did David Njoku get hurt yesterday, or did Harold Fannin Jr. just take over that tight end spot?
He did not get hurt. No,
I was like, why is Harold Fannin why am I hearing his name so much, and why is there a big, it wasn't a goose egg, but
this is something that we saw in a few places. The Browns can't pass protect. And Joe Flacco is, this just in, not
Old?
mobile.
Yeah, okay.
Well, he was not mobile when he was 25 as well.
Yeah.
Not that mobile, at least. So the ball's going to come out fast with Joe. That's the only way this team is going to be able to pass the football this year.
All right. Well, I just heard Harold Fanon's name a lot at the tight end spot. Maybe someone, in case you need a tight end, Stephania, that you could look at in waivers. But what can you tell us about both Brock Bowers and George Kittle?
Yeah, starting with George Kittle, I'm concerned enough that I'd be looking for a replacement for next week. Now, here's the thing. It's a hamstring injury, expected to get an MRI today. Monday, we're recording this at 10 in the morning, so we may have more information later today. We may get the information tomorrow. George Kittle, if you saw, he left after he had, touchdown. He did get you some fantasy points, but then he ended up in the blue medical tent, comes out wearing a baseball cap and cheers on his buddy Jake Tonjes for the rest of the game. That's listen. This is my new favorite player, and you can call me a homer if you want, but that kid sealed the game. And it wasn't just that. He also had the wherewithal when he caught a pass to do this little booty scoot because nobody had touched him to get them the first down. But I digress. So Jake Tonjes is probably going to be the pass-catching tight end in position if George Kittle cannot play next week. Here's the history of George Kittle, and this really pains me because we got into it yesterday, me and Fortenbaugh did, when he was talking about being nervous about George Kittle because he's hurt all the time. Yep. And I was like, that's perception because George Kittle has played in all but 1 or 2 games in the last 3 seasons. Yeah. And he had 1 year where he missed 8 games, and that was a foot fracture and an MCL sprain. But it is also true that he's dealt with these soft tissue injury tweaks. Now, if you want to look at the good side, he's only missed 1 game or 2 games in those years where he's had a hamstring thing crop up or a groin injury crop up. And you have to remember the 49ers played in 20 games 2 of the last 3 seasons. So you're on the field more than somebody else otherwise would be. But until we know what the severity of the hamstring injury is, we can't really project how long he'll be out. Okay. But if you look at past experience, George Kittle hasn't missed that much time, but he has missed some. So I would prepare as if, even though we don't know for sure, prepare as if he might not be there next week. When it comes to Brock Bowers wants you to exhale on this, said he took a hit to the knee and it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. And Pete Carroll said that Brock Bowers was lobbying to go back into the game yesterday, but the medical staff wouldn't let him. I still say monitor the reports, but that's something that you like to hear if everybody's sounding pretty confident coming out of the game.
He looks so good. He's so good. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, there is one more, and that's Xavier Worthy. Because that didn't happen last night, but that happened before. That was
because of a tight end, so it kind of fits in here.
Tight end on tight end crime there. But he and Travis Kelce collided in that game. Xavier Worthy ends up going off the field holding his right shoulder, dislocated right shoulder. Yesterday reported by NFL Network. And here's the thing with. I'm going to let the experience, I have experience in caring for these, but somebody else has experience in dealing with it. And as Field can perhaps elaborate on, the thing is you have other tissue damage when the shoulder goes out of joint traumatically like that. So the question becomes, what's the extent of the tissue damage? Is it something they feel they need to repair right away? Now, there are reports that he wants to try and play through it and play in a brace. That's a harness, which basically goes around your chest and your arm. So it keeps you from being able to get your arm into a position where it would subsequently dislocate again.
I can't imagine with that trying to reach up over my head to catch a pass.
There is the challenge, and it is harder to play the receiver position in a harness. But still getting evaluated and getting opinions, we shall see. But bottom line, Xavier Worthy will be out for an extended period of time.
Talk about wind coming out of your sails, because on top of the fact that, I have a thought. You guys chime in as well. Not Chad, but Chad. Chad, stay in the closet. The research den. I believe that each player in each league should be allowed 1 time per season to take a player out of their lineup after that player's game has begun. If the player leaves with an injury and it happens, I think this is the perfect storm. No recorded stats and he leaves with an injury. You should be able to yank that player from your lineup.
I like that feel.
1 time. You get one excuse per year that requires a little bit of commissioner luck.
Yeah, because Worthy happened on 3 snaps.
3 snaps and the guy gets pulled wind out of your sails on top of that. And Kurt Warner, who I thought was excellent during the game, said on multiple occasions, Andy Reid kept telling us about how the offense is going to run through Xavier Worthy. Who replaced Xavier Worthy? Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
What did he do?
10 catches.
Yeah.
On, I think, 12 targets.
Yeah.
And I love it. This is what the story I keep telling. Last year, they had the 1-year deal with Hollywood Brown, and it was supposed to be him and Worthy and Rice. Brown gets hurt in the preseason, doesn't make it back until late because he has surgery late in the year. Rashee Rice gets hurt early, end of season after week 4. So pretty much they're down to Worthy. And that's how we discovered who Xavier Worthy was. So this year, another 1-year deal for Hollywood Brown. You've got Rashee Rice back. And then, oh, no, you don't have Rashee Rice because he's suspended.
Yeah.
Worthy gets hurt and goes out for extended time. And so now, again, that trio, you're not going to get the benefit of those 3 receivers playing together until maybe late in the year.
So many shares of Xavier Worthy this year that it is so frustrating. And by the way, and I'm only going to say this quickly because I don't want to harp on it, but if you knew that Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy weren't going to play and Travis Kelce was going to finish with 4 targets in the game, would you feel like, boy, is this just the week 1 where like they had a different game plan? Or did Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have enough of a history that they don't need a game plan
We'll
with
find
each other?
soon. I would be more the latter than the former. Kelce was bailed you out with a touchdown.
With a
Long
touchdown.
but
Yeah, you got very lucky that you got that. So we'll see how that one goes. My last one really quickly, and then we'll dive into some studs and duds. Keenan Allen might be a problem for Ladd McConkey's ceiling this year.
Interesting. I just thought he was good. I would just like, no, I think both of them can eat.
Do you think so?
Because this offense was so pass heavy.
It is very pass heavy.
Oh my God! Like,
Justin Herbert has converted them.
I mean,
how
Jim
could
Harbaugh
you not?
kept talking about how
could
like,
you not?
yeah, Jim Harbaugh has made no mystery of the fact that he's like, this organization has failed Justin Herbert, not the other way around. And Justin Herbert needs to be the focal point of everything they do. Offensive line investments and first round running back investments be damned. You have an alien at quarterback. So yes, and I know this is a little bit of a nuanced stat that maybe not every football fan's familiar with, but we talk about pass neutral, or like neutral rates.
Yes.
Neutral spots, I should say, where it's like, 2nd and 1, you would expect a team to run the football, right? 2nd and 1, opportunity to get the first down with just 1 yard. But in neutral situations, 1st and 10 will be a neutral situation. You might call 3rd and 3 neutral, right? You could run the ball, you could throw the ball. The Chargers have come out of the gates, been extremely aggressive. We saw that trend in the back half of last year as well. So Justin Herbert, good things for his fantasy value, and I think good things for Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey.
I'll give you this one little nugget. When I was down at Chargers training camp, Keenan Allen had just come in for the visit the day before, and there was all this buzz, but he hadn't been signed yet. And Khalil Mack was talking to reporters, and they were like, so what do you think about Keenan Allen coming back? And he's like, oh, Mr. Third Down himself. And then, last night, or whenever they played, Friday night, I was like, yep, 3rd down, Keenan Allen, because he's money in the bank. And he had that relationship with Herbert from before. And I think it was so easy because the chemistry was already there and he knows his role and he's not going to try to be anything different. That's why I think Ladd McConkey can still excel too. Keenan Allen has a very specific role. Like he's going to be that guy on 3rd down conversions, and he might get a touchdown here and there as well. But Ladd McConkey still.
I guess the thing for me was the idea that it's not that Ladd McConkey can't still be really good in this offense, but does the top end of that ceiling come down a little bit when you add in Keenan?
9 targets is pretty good for Ladd, right? Like you extrapolate that over the season.
Maybe it was Quentin Johnston then who got 2 touchdowns and actually led the receivers in this squad.
You for 153 targets.
I know.
I know, but
I'll be pleased if I get 153.
So I hear you. I was more enthused by Keenan than I was more like I wish I had just put more stock into Keenan than like taken away
from Ladd McConkey.
By the way, Ladd is so damn good. Holy cow.
He is. I wish
he is unbelievable.
Maybe it's because both the other wide receivers got in the end zone. And Ladd was the only pass catcher to not get in the end zone.
Unlucky.
So maybe it just felt a little bit not great there.
You were feeling sad.
Yeah. We got one question from our YouTube chat.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. Maddie Randoms wants to know, do we always panic in the first of fantasy?
Yes, Maddie.
This is how it works,
Are you
right?
new to the game? Yes.
In the first week?
First week of fantasy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Week was missing there. Yes.
First week. Yes, we
we
panic.
always do. That's normal.
Panic and overreact, and we're trying to figure out what's real and what's not real.
Though. We don't only panic in week 1. We just always panic in week 1. There will be other opportunities to panic.
Yes.
Believe
All right.
me.
Indeed.
Let's dive into some studs and duds. Stephania, I'm going to tee you up first to go with a stud. I am. And I'm going to let you go ahead and kick this one off for us.
Yeah, this is kind of like paying homage to players that
Do I get to pick which one I want? have to
that's a
go
great
with the
question.
first guy on my list?
Whatever you want,
I was told to start with you, so we're starting with you.
All right. Well, I want to go with Emeka Egbuka.
Okay, there you go.
Because to me, he is.
I'll cross him off my list.
I want to go back to. I'm sorry. I'm going to give myself a teeny bit of credit here. I want to go back to the draft where when we started, everybody was talking about what Tampa Bay was going to do in the first round. And I believed that they were going to go with the wide receiver because there was just some rumblings that maybe Chris Godwin was having a little challenge in coming back from that ankle injury.
Yeah.
And boy, did they. I mean, he is such a talented receiver, played a lot out of the slot at Ohio State, and they loved him in training camp. And I think the other thing that happened was he got a chance to practice lining up in different positions through camp. The confidence was there with Baker Mayfield looking to him. I felt like, listen, what was he projected for? 7 targets, 4 catches, 60 yards. Boy, Mike Clay kind of knows what he's doing. 6 targets,
Don't say that too loud.
4 receptions, 67 yards. But you know what Mike didn't give him? 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 2 tutties.
Yeah, so listen, I just thought it was a nice, solid first outing for him that establishes him as a consistent part of the offense. And that, to me, is the critical piece because I think he's going to stay. I think whatever happens with Chris Godwin, saw reports last night that he's targeting for week 5. But again, let's keep that loose and also know that even aiming for week 5, we don't know what the volume, if everything goes well and that happens, you don't know what the volume looks like. You don't know what the role is. I think Emeka Egbuka is here to stay. And I think yesterday's performance sealed that.
I'm with you. Field, why don't you go next?
I'll give you a 2-for-1.
I was just going to say we got a 2-for at the top of this.
Let's do this. Yeah. So Josh Allen, which you could probably just give the analysis of Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, period.
Unbelievable.
Hashtag Josh Allen.
Crazy. This was like the tale of two halves last night, right? Baltimore was just on cruise control in the first half, and then Josh, just a monster second half. Really almost like a monster last quarter and a half. The Bills were, of course, trailing by 15 points in this game. They mount a miracle comeback. Josh Allen was money. How about this? 394 passing yards. Pretty good, right?
Pretty good.
Passing touchdowns. So if you just took just those points, that's nearly 20 fantasy points for Josh Allen as a thrower. Oh, and then he had 14 carries for 30 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Josh enters the week, or exits the week, I should say, as the highest scoring player pending Monday Night Football, 45.36 fantasy points. Bad man. Keon Coleman, his teammate, blew up in the second half. Keon was like, I don't know, I barely saw him in the first half of the game.
What was his
final stat? Give me his final stat line, because I'll give you his fourth quarter.
8 catches, 112 yards, and 1 touchdown on 11 targets.
All right, so let me tell you that in the fourth quarter, he had 8 targets for 7 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown. So he did basically all of this.
1 catch going into the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Right? So
unbelievable.
Far too soon to be victory lapping on anything related to really all things fantasy.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think that we talked about on the show that was like, I think last night was suggestive of, not definitively declaring, but if there's one Bills receiver who has who has a lot of talent that could break out, perhaps it's Keon Coleman. I will also note that Keon Coleman's touchdown was not intended for him. It ricocheted and he caught it.
That's true.
I know.
Nobody cares how.
That's right.
Points do not count.
Many. Who you got, Daniel?
I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel.
Oh, that's going to take your namesake.
You know what? I think there may have been a little bit of too much of a gap between Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. We kind of left Deebo Samuel as a guy that we weren't really drafting super high. He was wide receiver 45 in our draft process. And then this week, 10 targets, 7 catches for 77 yards. Plus, he got a 19-yard carry that he took into the end zone for 22.6 points, which is pretty good if you ask me. The other side of that, when you look at Terry McLaurin did not have a good football game in this one. I'm trying to pull up my things here. Terry McLaurin, 4 targets, 2 catches for 27 yards. Don't want to anoint Deebo Samuel as like the second coming here in this Commanders offense, but I wonder if there was a little bit too much of a gap, because if you did have to play Deebo maybe in a 12-team or deeper league, he absolutely crushed it for you. I wonder if we'll see a little bit more rushing volume. They didn't really want to run the ball with him a lot, and in fact, the only carry he got was that touchdown run. Yeah. But when you know what he can do, Deebo looked fantastic. I'm interested to see how he's going to continue to add on to this performance in future weeks.
Any last studs for you, Stephania?
I don't know, this guy named Derrick Henry. And
Is he new?
Yeah. Have you? Here's the thing. My heart hurts for Derrick Henry today because that was just, he owned the fumble that cost them the game pretty much. That turnover allowed Buffalo to be able to come away and win the game.
I think maybe their defense cost him the game rather than Derrick Henry. Let's say that.
But he set it up, right? I mean, there's no way you don't feel that if you're not Derrick Henry, and he's a good teammate. So that's what he did.
He is a good teammate.
Yeah, he is. He's a good football player.
He's really good at what he does.
You think he's a good football player? He is such a unicorn. I freak out when I'm watching him because I'm like, this guy is not built to be a running back. Can you imagine him raising his hand in like high school where we know he had over 2,000 yards just in his senior year rushing?
You know what he looked like? He looked like Billy Madison out there. Like he's a man amongst children is what it would look like.
I mean, I've stood next to him before and I'm like, I cannot believe you play the position of running back. I just want to compare Mike's projections to what he actually did because it's so stupid. Not Mike, but the ridiculousness of the Derrick Henry performance. Mike projected him for 18 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown.
Yep.
18 carries, 169 yards.
He looks so good.
And 2 touchdowns. He also caught a pass, which, that's fun for us when Derrick Henry catches a pass. He doesn't really need to be fantasy productive. I think what's so unbelievable about him is I just want a tape of all highlight reel of Derrick Henry because he just runs you over. I laugh every time I see guys going to tackle him. They're like, no, why? Why is it me that has to try and get in the way of Derrick Henry? He just trucks over people, like flat out destroy. They can stack a box against him. It does not work. It does not matter. He's so good. And he is the most uniquely positioned running back to deliver you fantasy points without catching the ball.
There are a couple of phrases that I can say that will make Rosie come running into the room if she's not in the same room as me. One of them is Derrick Henry stiff arm. And she immediately drops what she's doing. She's like, wait, I want to see it. And that's like, it's just so much fun to watch him be able to just run over these guys. Good. It is absolutely fantastic. Field, I just want to give you a quick little bit of credit. Daniel Jones, who was your start of the week at quarterback, you just crushed it. I mean, he absolutely smashed. He looked unbelievable.
Because you called it, right?
33.8 fantasy points. Come on, dude.
Well, so my question is, and Mike's not here, so I think we can just decide this now. Mike's not here. If he actually cared about work, he would show up.
He would have showed up.
Starts of the week, each week, we have a new contest where the winner between the loser between Mike, Daniel, and I has to face some sort of punishment. It's not going to be me because of Daniel Jones. It's going to be you or Mike. Do we think one naked lap of ESPN is a reasonable punishment?
I think one is fine. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No one wants to see that. That's a punishment for all of us who work here. That's not a punishment.
All right. Well, we can discuss. All right. Fine.
Put Mike in a cold plunge.
Waffle House challenge.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. We need to make that happen.
Speaking of Mike Clay, let's talk about some duds.
Yeah. Let's.
Okay.
The segues.
Who starts it off?
Why don't you kick it off?
So I'll start here with T. Higgins, just go in order of how we listed in the sheet. T, 4 targets, 3 catches, 33 yards, 6.3 fantasy points. A lot of what we discussed with Jamar Chase applies to T. Higgins. Slow starting
Honestly,
offense.
Same thing happened with Chase Brown. If he hadn't gotten in the end zone, Chase Brown would be a part of this segment too.
Man, he was awesome early in that game.
Early.
He looked amazing.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about T. Higgins that's different from Jamar Chase is that we know with T, the volatility is baked in.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's why he's not being drafted as a top 8 wide receiver. He's going more like wide receiver 14, 15, or somewhere as high as like wide receiver 11 or 12 in some drafts. So T, he got to ride the wave a little bit, but not a great start for the Bengals offense. I fully expect them to get back on track. They play in week 2 against, I forget.
And they don't necessarily cancel each other out. If you go back and look at last year's games, they both, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, can be productive in the same game. So it's not like it's one or the other. In this case, it was both.
Yep.
Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
I was sad.
Yes.
I have Terry McLaurin in so many fantasy leagues. I got crushed. I might lose weeks because look, the projections, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 63 yards. He had 2 catches.
Yeah, not great.
On 4 targets.
Not great.
27 yards, 4.7 fantasy points. That's not going to win you a week, Stephania.
No, it is not.
I think what we should do is like assign a quick level. Like I am
and how worried.
Not concerned.
Yeah. So going back to, because you had the question about the Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin gap, I don't think it was an either or situation there either. Like, I don't think it's going to be like Deebo looks fantastic and Terry McLaurin's out of it. I actually think they create opportunities for each other. Yeah. I just think it was the game.
Week 1 just happened to not play out that way. Are you worried about Nico Collins? Because Nico Collins looked not great.
Well, I thought he looked fine.
Yeah.
I thought the
Oh,
offense
really?
looked-
Okay, maybe that's what
I'm
it is. I'm worried about
the
his
Texans'
production.
offense.
The offensive line gave
They can't
C.J.
press.
Stroud no time to throw the football.
None.
I mean, that's a nasty Rams defensive front. The Texans got to get going in a hurry here. They
Yes.
play next Monday night on ESPN.
Doesn't get
of
easier.
course. I think it's
Does it?
easier than the Rams. Yeah.
The Rams, though, surprised me. Were you expecting them to be that awesome in terms of their...
That's a great. They were great last year
Yeah.
in defense. They were great. So
But-
I thought they would give the Texans a ton of fits. But it's 5 targets is not nearly enough for Nico Collins. Like do whatever it has to. Like if you have to give him 5 wide receiver screens at a game because you can't pass protect, do that. He is way too good. I would say, like on 1 to 10 scale for Nico Collins, 2.5 after week 1.
I would agree with
Not
that.
nothing, but not too much.
Yeah.
He could ball out this upcoming weekend.
We just need to. We just got to have
They
time.
couldn't pass
I
protect
wasn't
last
sure
year.
which direction the scale was going. Could you explain? 2.5 is low.
Right.
Okay.
10 would be like very concerning.
Okay.
Yes.
So like DEFCON 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yes.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Borrow Booger
Yes.
McFarland from Saturday afternoon games term. Okay.
Malik Neighbors, I
Ooh.
would say, is like a 1.5 to a 2 at worst. Here's the reason why. So Malik Neighbors had 12 targets yesterday.
Yep.
5 catches, 71 yards, 12.1 fantasy points.
Who's the quarterback next week?
I don't know. And that's part of the
And
reason
that's
why
part of
my
the problem.
concern level is not that high. If it's Russell Wilson, like they got to get things going in a hurry. I thought Russ looked pretty bad yesterday. There's all the talk about how great Jackson Dart has been, both from what we saw on the field in preseason and also what the Giants are saying behind the scenes. So seems like Jackson Dart could be starting sooner rather than later, maybe as soon as next weekend. That would increase my confidence in Malik Neighbors. I will rank him as a wide receiver 1 or close to it again next week.
I would do the same thing.
I was really surprised though. Like Russell Wilson's been practicing. Like this, we've had training camp.
He just might be, formally very
I know,
good.
but like,
Russell
did
Wilson.
we not like? We've had some battles in training camp, and this like there was no question that he was starting. And I thought yesterday, at least certainly looked like there should have been a question.
I assumed that if Malik Neighbors could get it done with Daniel Jones, that it wasn't going to be a drop off to Russell Wilson. It was going to be lower than that. So that is something to monitor. Excuse me, Stephania, another tight end, unfortunately, that was not fantastic. Mark Andrews, 1 catch for 5 yards in a game in which they scored 81 combined points. I mean, the offense was unbelievable across the board, and Mark Andrews basically just nowhere to be found.
I don't blame Mark Andrews here. I think it was just a function of the way the game was being played, and Lamar Jackson, that traditionally has looked to Mark Andrews as like safety valve in the red zone, and that's where he's used. But I felt like Mark Andrews was a blocker.
Safety valve to me looked like Rashad Bateman a little bit in there. We saw some.
A lot of
like-
mouse-
But but they were also making more middle to long distance plays than I think we typically have
DeAndre
become
Hopkins'
accustomed to.
touchdown was sick. That was so
And I
sick.
mean, who was counting on that? Who was counting on the old dude to get a one-hander that would take him into the, down to the...
that was over top of 2 defenders, basically.
Him and Isaac Tesla
Yeah.
for the catch.
The Isaac Tesla catch was unbelievable. I wish it meant
But-
something.
So on that,
sorry,
Mark
buddy.
Andrews, I think given what happened last year, I'm a little more, based on how we're using this scale, I'd put him at like a 4.5 because Isaiah Likely is not going to be back next week, I don't believe. It's going to be Mark Andrews. And yes, I guess he scored a lot of touchdowns last year, and that was the thing that we expected some regression from. But I still think there's an opportunity for him to perform better than there was this week.
I don't think he's a top 10 tight end. I mean, I didn't have him ranked as a top tight end. I haven't had him all offseason ranked
He
as a
wasn't
top 10 tight
drafted
end.
that way, though. Really?
He was drafted at the back end of the-
back
yeah,
end.
yeah.
I saw him going late in a lot of drafts.
Well, like all the tight ends went late this year, right? Like everybody got pushed down past George Kittle. It was
Yeah.
like round 6 or 7, which is why we kept saying, like, hey, if you burn a pick on
it
Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, like it's
that's
okay.
true. They were sort of clustered together.
We got a Monday Night Football game we got to preview real quick.
Let's do it. Yeah, and let's pick it too for fun.
Let's have a little bit of fun with it. All right.
do it.
What's
Why
one
not?
thing? Well, I got to say this. One thing that I'm watching is
Yeah,
just
go for it.
Minnesota Vikings. JJ McCarthy. We know what they looked like last year in that unbelievable season with Sam Darnold on the center. Now it's going to be JJ McCarthy, former first-round pick, being able to figure things out. Don't have Jordan Addison here. It's going to have to be Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones.
Yep.
So we'll
Did
see
you
how
read
that
my
works out.
notes? Did you read my notes?
I
Because this
did
was
not.
my thing to watch, was JJ McCarthy and his efficiency with his receivers.
Excited to see
Because
that.
I think the bonus that he got was that he took a lot of reps with the ones last year before getting hurt. So he came into camp in a little bit better position than you would expect. But he didn't have Justin Jefferson with him in camp because of the hamstring. He doesn't have Jordan Addison now. So how does it look? Now it's a real game, real big boy football, and an arrangement of receivers that might not be his ideal grouping.
Yeah.
Is it a big night for your boy, your brother?
TJ Hawkinson.
From another mother. TJ Hawkinson,
I think it might be. Could be.
Well, and also, I know that Daniel has continually said Justin Jefferson is quarterback agnostic. Tonight is the first test of that you both referenced there. I kept thinking maybe throughout training camp or even during the offseason, the Bears might address the second running back spot a little bit more. And yet it sort of feels like with Kyle Monungai, who's been banged up recently, that it's like it just might be the DeAndre Swift show. Like, could he be this year's Tony Pollard in the sense that like just
I drafted him in a bunch of places.
I think we have hopefully a lot of shares of DeAndre Swift. We'll see, but it feels like he could be quite busy tonight. Is busy like Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey in terms of snap or snap or touch opportunities? Probably not. But he feels in line to be very, very busy tonight.
I'm hoping for a good game. For
I got the Bears.
Williams.
I've got the Vikings.
I've got the Vikings.
Okay, then I'll be the lone.
I've got the
Bears.
I've got the Vikings, but you know what I'd really like to see? I'd like to see another Sunday night game on Monday night. I don't think we're going to get it, but I mean, I would love to see at least a football game that is really competitive, back and forth, a lot of fantasy points.
I need 5 points from 5 more points than DeAndre Swift. Because Matthew Berry has Aaron Jones going against me in the Dynasty League. I'm currently up by 5, so I need up by 5. He's got Aaron Jones. I've got DeAndre Swift. So I need DeAndre Swift to at least not get outscored by more than 5 points.
I'd rather be you than him.
I think I would rather be me than him too. We're talking about in fantasy football for this team, right?
Right.
It's your words, not mine.
I would rather.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Yes.
It's your wish.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, I can take down Matthew Berry. That's what I'm hoping for in week 1 here.
All right.
That's going to do it for us. We got a fun Monday Night Football game to watch tonight. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be back tomorrow recapping Monday Night Football. We're going to dive into the waiver wire and dump out the bucket on the rest of the things from week 1 we didn't get a chance to talk about.
Hopefully some news update on injuries.
Some injury updates,
also,
Stephania.
Drake London. We didn't get to him, but he also got injured yesterday.
And we will certainly talk about that tomorrow for sure. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget to love each other, be kind to yourself, and have fun watching Monday Night Football.
Go Bears.
See ya.